morning. Good morning. My name is Anna Margo, and I'm very happy to welcome you here to a talk on festival strategy and film trajectory and how to position your project. And I'm incredibly happy to welcome two distinguished experts here. Susana Fernandez, she has an extensive background in festivals and documentary platforms. And Imi Sutton, who is here and has a long-standing background in sales. And I would like to invite you also to ask questions, raise your points in how to get your film to its audience and how to get it, spread it widely. And of course, because we are here, we are where we are, to also look into how the film can develop as much impact as possible. So I would start with a question to both of you. I mean, on the one hand, when do you start with sales and positioning a film? And is there a recipe that you can tell us all and so we follow it and know what to do?
I think to start from a sales perspective, it's really important to be strategizing festival strategy as early as you can, and at least sort of a year before the world premiere is set, because of how closely aligned sales strategy is with festival strategy. So it's really important for sales companies to have an idea about where that festival world premiere is going to be, so they can control visibility, control who's going to see it, and packaging it for a world premiere.
And maybe I will say that to think about the festival strategy, but also about audiences, if you start already from the development, it will be the best. I mean, even to show your film or your project in earlier stages, just to know, okay, which direction and what will be not just the best festival for me, but also the best market or the best expert that can join me in the project during the development of the project. The earliest as you can, the better. That doesn't mean that you need to be showing it all the time, but there's like some milestones, like maybe in development, maybe a bit in progress, and then in the rough cut, then the sales agents can watch it. Even if you do, I would say that even if you don't want, or you are not already knowing which sales agent you want, but if you make a rough cut and you are showing it to people that they are sales in the room, that is very useful to receive feedback, not to work alone during the whole process.
Yeah, and as acquisitions manager as well, it's my job to be traveling around and seeing what's being developed and seeing what's in production and what's coming up. So if you're able to attend and show and pitch and have these meetings with potential partners, it's really valuable from early stages.
What if the audience changes throughout the course and I've already positioned my film? What do I do then? I mean, the film develops throughout the course of the project. Would you say this is a problem, or you just adapt your plan with regards to sales?
Yeah, there's always time and room to adapt, and I think if you're doing that with as much time as possible, then it helps, and then when you're working with new partners in sales, it's their job to commercially package your film. So if you have one idea about an audience, but then it turns out to be another, that's a bit of a discovery, I think. And, you know, if you're open to collaboration and doing it with time, then it's absolutely fine.
And for the markets too, because also the experts that you are going to pitch the project, they are also doing other festivals and markets. They know also which other projects are around that maybe you can say, hey, I saw something that is very similar. Maybe you can take another part of, maybe you don't have a film, maybe you have a series, maybe you don't have a feature, maybe you have a short. So they can really help you to change not the original because it's your idea, it's your film, but maybe how to position, how to shape it or give ideas. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, well, the sales agent's role is to position it amongst all the other competing titles coming out that year or what came out previously, and really shape it so it's unique and feels fresh. And I think what a lot of people don't know is the sort of input that sales agents can have on an edit as well in sort of post-production stage. So also having those conversations earlier on really help to shape it so it's standing out and ready for whatever festival as well, shaping it particularly for that festival before the world premiere, so it has best chances.
Because you mentioned already the festivals, and I'm getting the idea that there's no recipe to follow for all with tick boxes, but that you actually have to look into your film and kind of enter a dialogue with sales and acquisitions. How do you navigate the festival system? Because is always a festival the best choice? Is everything lost if I don't end up at an A festival? So maybe you can explain that a little bit.
I think it's important to have an honest conversation with yourself and then whoever you're collaborating with about what the impact and evaluating what value you're going to get out of screenings. What is the impact that you want to see from your film? And how are you going to reach those audiences through festivals? So really, what is the value of trying to reach for an out-of-competition, unrelated slot for your film in an A festival versus a specific sort of more thematic festival in competition, directly targeting your audience and the people that are most engaged to the issue that you are that your film is about. So I think having the sort of misconceptions about trying to not getting into those A festivals in Cannes and Berlin and Sundance, and they are hard to get into, but there is so much value in especially the doc space. We have so many amazing opportunities in the documentary world that are ever growing, and they can really be valuable spaces for your films to launch.
Yeah, as we were talking yesterday, like I'm more thinking, what do you, like you say honestly, no? To think, okay, what I want to do with this film, if I want to have like a very fast and short, or if you want to make it sustainable and maybe prolong the life of your film, not just thinking about prestige, but more about, okay, go maybe with not the smaller, but you are going to reach more audiences too, and you are going to make impact to more number of communities at the end. So not just focus in the big ones, but try to make that make sense and that they are aligned with your project.
Yeah. I will say though, as a sales agent and working with documentaries, it can be effective to try sort of aim for what's classified as like a mainstream festival as your initial launch, because you're reaching a wider audience than the fiction side of things that you may not be able to grasp from the documentary-specific festivals. So having your initial launch there can sort of widen your audience in one way. But it's not essential, but it's something that can be tactical.
And of course that it is how it is, no? That we know that you have the mark of this festival. It gives more possibilities to make the next film. Or this is absolutely true. But also the people that you meet in other kind of festivals, I mean in big festivals and big markets, sometimes you don't have the access to professionals or to future partners as you could have in medium-sized festivals with very good professional partner and market. And maybe you can find the good one, not in a big one, but in a medium one.
Yeah. Having spaces created just for documentary filmmakers and that access to consult with experts and get feedback with your peers and navigating what is a more specific pathway as well. I mean, spaces like CanDocs, which is growing every year. Pierre Alexis is doing an amazing job. You've got Millennium Docs Against Gravity in Poland as well, and the industry side of things, which you have a lot of experience in, is growing as well, and recently got Oscar qualifying status. So yeah, there's lots of really great spaces on the documentary side.
And because you have a lot of experience in choosing films also, I'm sure it would be interesting to understand what are your criteria? How do you choose a film or a project?
I'm going to start with the projects, okay, because I have more a background in markets. So I program and select and evaluate projects, films not that much. And I will say that there is not a magic recipe, and it also changed a lot about what is happening in the world, or the many things. But I think that one of the more important things is that is aligned with the editorial line of what the festival, what the unique selling point of the market. Okay, if it's a market that is focused in the Nordics, then it's going to have a lot of experts looking for projects that align with those audiences. That is important to know. The editorial line, if artistically, for example, is very clear. No, you have an experimental or hybrid film. There is festivals like Vision du Réel or Fit Marseille that maybe is more aligned. If you have a very traditional project, then maybe not send to those markets. No. Also, if it's a relevant topic or project, also the context of the world, the necessity, the urgency of doing it. For market, it's also very important to know that the project is going to become a film that is doable. If it's a strong project, it's a strong team behind, if the budget makes sense, if the fact that this project comes to the market, they are going to find a match. At the end, we are a bit like the Tinder of the industry. We make matches with the projects and people that can help to finish those projects. And for us, it's important to have that, to have a reason to exist. No? What else? I'm forgetting things. Yeah. More or less, but there are another, of course, personal. At the end, we are programmers, and we also have a taste. Also, it's important to know we receive a lot of markets. We receive each year more and more projects. There are projects that they are very similar. Sometimes you have one and you have four that they are the same topic. We have to decide, and they are very small details. It doesn't mean that your project is less good. It's just that there is another one that makes a bit more sense or fits a little bit more, and it's going to be that what we select, because from 600 projects, we can take maybe 30, 40, and you need to make a decision. So it's also a question of maybe the expert that I bring in, they makes more sense for this and not for the other. So that is also to manage expectations and don't get frustrated. Sometimes they are very small, that we are happy to give this feedback when we can, and we have time to do it after the festival. But sometimes it's not that my project is not that good. No, it's a question of a lot of other things around.
Yeah, a lot of uncontrollable and unpredictable factors come into play. I think from the past few years, projects that I've worked on that have done particularly well in their pitches, they've really set the scene of an experience and had a unique creative approach to storytelling, such as Smoke Sauna Sisterhood by Anna Hintz. In the opening line of that synopsis, it's in the midst of a dark sauna, and the reason that film was theatrically released globally was because it was an experience you had to see in the cinema. It was a theatrical experience, and it was an incredible journey for a first-time filmmaker about a ritual in Estonia. So there was that. The Mother of All Lies won 2 awards in Cannes. It was Esme Elmidir's first major feature film. and that had a hybrid approach. She recreated like a model Casablanca town to tell the story. And also The Remarkable Life of Ibelin, which was Benjamin Ree, a Norwegian film, which we got into Sundance and sold to Netflix out of Sundance a couple of years ago. And in that film, he recreates the world of Warcraft to tell the story. So these sort of like unique experiences for the audience to experience the story on screen have definitely done well for documentaries the past few years for us.
And coming to the question of impact, how can you also, or how are you helping to increase the impact of films? How is also the impact making of the film helping sales? Is this a kind of a dynamic, or is this a one-way situation?
From my experience, different sales agents function differently when working with impact. From my time with Outlook, we always made space for impact campaigns and considered it into our strategy. So always sort of working adjacent to it. And from the very beginning, before we do the launch, we would figure out and align on what those goals were. So as festival manager, we would have a holdback of about a year, and then be able to go out more broadly, work with the screening hosts and understand the goals from the filmmaker of what they wanted to achieve. And then after sort of holdbacks for a year, getting in all those key festival premieres, we could go out more broadly to non-theatrical hosts and educational hosts as well, where we could really tap into NGOs and foundations and that kind of thing. But we were never so hands-on with the impact campaign. That would come from the filmmakers. However, now with my role with Together Films, so Together Films started out as an impact and marketing agency about 10 years ago, and they're newly a sales agent. So we have a whole separate department for impact. So we come on in many different capacities, and depending on the project, we might service impact and sales, and it might just be impact. So definitely more hands-on if we are working on impact. And my colleagues have a whole database of foundations and philanthropists, and a whole strategy on film financing as well. So coming on at an earlier stage, it can really work out who the best partners will be to help you get over certain lines in production, but also afterwards, working non-theatrically for films that have come out 3 years ago. I'm booking this amazing film called Future Council, if you haven't seen it. I booked 135 screenings in Singapore the other day, and that came out a few years ago. So as a company, it's not dead to us after the first year. We're still very much doing outreach and seeking out those potential new opportunities for the film for impact. Yeah.
How much are you working with the educational sector and schools in this?
All the time. So I did that with my role at Outlook as well, but with Together Films too. And there's lots of amazing institutes, universities, and recurring clients. And then I have an amazing colleague who spends her week doing research for new screening hosts and generating lists and lists of people for all of our projects, so creating individual strategies for each film.
If I can add something that is also interesting, because and sales agents, you do that a lot to think, okay, maybe you can also make a little change in the format of the film when it's still not finished, that you can reach other platforms, other formats, no? That maybe you can make a version for platforms. You can also make a smaller thing for an exhibition. You can go educational. Then to not just stay, okay, I have a feature, I have this format. You can change it slightly and decline it in other ways. That is going to prolong the life of the film and of the project, no, and get other audiences.
Yeah, definitely. I think a standard working at Outlook and Together Films is having primarily that feature version of the film to work with festivals, because that's going to be your initial screenings. And then when broadcast deals usually come into play towards a year after the release or 8 months after the initial screening, then you'd require a TV cut. So at least having that in mind, that will be required at some point. And then I think after that and sustaining like a longer life, I've worked with packages of films that have like VR elements, which are really interesting to work with, and there's so many really cool spaces at festivals for those to happen. And Together Films actually create educational handbooks as well to go with non-theatrical screening hosts, which is incredible. And I don't think any other sales agents do that.
That sounds very impressive. I want to ask you if you have questions. Please just raise your hand if you do. Otherwise, we will just continue talking here. Because I had a question to you, Susanna, because we were talking about impact and how it can help sales. But how important is it for you when you're selecting a film? Do you think like this film is...
Yeah, of course. Yes, if it's going to make an impact also in, as I was saying about the urgency and the need to do, that this project has to happen. I mean, this project, it has to be a film because it's important. We take a lot of account, of course, the geopolitical context of what is happening in the world, also because we need to talk about, I mean, we are documentary festivals and markets, then we need these projects that happen. Then we also, in all the experts that we bring to meet these projects, we are sure that there are impact strategies or impact producers that can help, and they can see them, and that the story travels. No, at the end, we also bring international guests for that reason, so they can export the stories and export the talent to their countries and reach and find partners, of course, to finish that project, but also that the story reaches those parts of the world. Yeah.
And how do you, not maybe measure impact, but how do you measure impact? Is it just that many people see a film, or that a film creates a discourse or shapes a discourse? Do you have an idea of what your impact should be?
I don't think audiences only about how many tickets in cinema you sell. Mm-hmm. I think that is more like what is the natural public and the natural circuit of a film. I think that the impact can go in very different ways. Mm-hmm. I mean, you have films that you can see that the fact of existing make a show, that you can really show that something happens, but sometimes it's just that changes the way to think of the people, and even the way to how to finish, how to produce, or how to distribute. There is also and even with this kind of talks, when you give ideas, that is also makes an impact. You are going to make decisions maybe after this that you will not make if you are not here. So if you are making a panel about something, above all when it's a film festival, so markets focusing impact, you're going to hear people saying things that they are going to make you think, and what you do, how it's going to make an impact. Then you a bit like making food, mixing a lot of ingredients and trying to find new recipes, and inventing new ones.
Mm-hmm. But could impact also be one of the factors that makes your project stand out when pitching, for example? Absolutely,
yes. It is one of the things that okay, this is going to be a film that is going to make an impact. It will be one.
Yeah, and being able to sort of define that within just one or two sentences, and you don't have to have a full impact campaign or strategy sort of written out, but just really being able to communicate that when you're speaking and understanding that yourself to potential partners is really important. And I think eventizing at festivals is a really great way to make impact, and having conversations and having ideas about how you can eventize as well, and proposing them early on, whether that's people that could speak on a panel all around the world, people connected to the story, marketing opportunities, that kind of thing, how you can create a buzz around your issue and engage people. If you're thinking about that from early stages, it's really helpful for sales people to sell, to pitch to programmers why they should do this and how they can bring in audiences. So yeah, being creative with those ideas from an early stage is really helpful.
Thank you. I mean, there's a question, please.
From my perspective as producer,
There's a microphone coming to you.
I'd be interested in the topic of the competition between festivals. You want to be the first one to show the films. For important festivals, it should be a world premiere, at least a European or whatever premiere. If you submit the film, I always get the impression it's important that it appears as a fresh, just ready film. Nobody else has seen it before. If a film has already 3 to 5 rejections, it's not very easy then to find an important festival that is still interested. So how much are you watching what other festivals decide, what others have on the list, and how much are the selecting committees interconnected between each other? This is a topic I would be very interested to hear more about.
Do you mean if we talk with each other?
Yes, for instance.
No, we
Never.
sometimes in the same city. No, I mean I don't know because I don't program films, so I'm not a film programmer in the programming team. We ask for which markets have you been, and I think that for us the less is the better, because then it's going to be more unknown. And actually, sometimes we say protect that project, don't pitch it, don't over pitch projects. That is also important because it has to arrive to rough cut or to a late state, still like a discovery, above all because it's when you are going to show to the people. And also because when has been in a lot of markets, why is not finishing this project? And we wonder that. It has been already too much seen. It has met already a lot of people, and above all is why is wrong. Maybe we should know, of course, that we are going to show this, to show the pitch deck and to show the trailer, etc. But but it's true that maybe that could make that we prefer that it's not very, very pitched. In rejection and world premieres and that, I think that Amy is maybe better for that.
I think it's really tricky it's a bit of a fine line. You've got to obviously try share your project at early stages, but you've got to also keep it fresh and feeling exclusive and a discovery as well when it gets to the world premiere stage. But I would also argue that all the the main A festivals are very different. So I think having some intention about where you're aiming is important, and what slot as well at that festival, and what platform that's going to give your film and how it's relevant. So I think aiming very broadly can be ineffective and doesn't mean that you just might not be aiming specifically in the right direction. But of course there's always cases where your film doesn't reach the world premiere that it wants, and I think then working with a sales agent, not to sell it, from an earlier stage is really helpful. I worked on a film a couple of years ago. We re-strategized multiple times throughout the year. It just wasn't getting into the festivals that we had hoped, and we had so much control of putting it on our lineup, taking it off, changing the whole narrative of the film, and then being able to just effectively communicate with programmers so it still felt fresh and not overexposing them to it from an early stage. So I think it's very useful to have someone else that's sort of controlling that visibility, so it doesn't feel like it's been overpitched and overseen by programmers. Yeah.
And maybe it's also a way to manage expectations and get the less frustrated possible, because filmmakers, you are very resilient people, that you are used to get a lot of no's. And then the more no's that we can save, explaining how, from making the strategy from the beginning, the better. And also because the programming, as we were saying, is that the programming starts in the markets. If I see a project that is very good, my colleagues from programming films, they are going to know. And if that project, when it's finished, maybe 3 years later, and it's going to apply, I'm going to remember, and they are going to maybe have it because it's been part, or I receive it, but maybe didn't was a fit for that year. So it's also a way to think and be known. And we also invite programmers from festivals, and we talk. I mean, I told Timmy, I just was in Madrid, in Documenta Madrid. I saw a great project that is really in the beginning, and we comment, we talk, maybe, yes, with films and also with pitches.
Yeah, and I think sales agents sort of enable that access to early feedback as well, and that's what we've done with the film, that we decided to change sort of the whole narrative structure, and that was from feedback from festival programmers, which is super valuable at an early stage.
Is your question been sufficiently answered? Because we have another one in the fourth row. Because the people in the live stream won't hear you otherwise.
Can you lay out what a festival strategy is? I'm an independent filmmaker. I've got no idea about any of this. I've got a blank sheet in front of me. What's a festival strategy? What do I do? Am I making a list of festivals that I should be targeting? Like, what is that? What does it look like?
Go.
What is your production timeline? What time of year are you looking to launch your film? What is your film? And finding the right home. Every festival is different and has a different selection, so really finding, the right festival for your film and what. Sorry.
If you want to go to festivals, because sometimes it's not just festivals. We are in a film festival, okay, but that I think that also festivals are super useful to bring visibility and get into the audience and that. But you can also make a strategy of the life after the festival. There is also only market strategy, that how I can see, and it's very important to do a bit of homework too. Okay, to put alarms about the deadlines, to know which are the open calls and that. To know what is how festivals and market can be the most useful for your project. At the end, that it becomes a film, and to prolong the life of your film, that is a festival strategy that starts with a market strategy.
Yeah, at all major festivals, they've got a market attached. So you've got all your buyers. So when you're looking to sell your film, it's important to consider what festival you're launching at because of who's attending. So from the sales side, we'll engage the relevant targets for who we want to buy the film and who would be the right partners, and they're at different festivals throughout the year. So as a filmmaker, you can be thinking about your production timeline, what kind of festivals are the right home for your film, documentary-specific ones, look down that list, Oscar qualifying documentary festivals, competition slots, any specific themes related to your film, and where similar films have gone previously in the past years as well, and looking at their journeys will really help.
It's clear? More or less? You can also in festivals, you find community, you find other filmmakers, but you can also find experts and funding that is going to help you to finish, to fund or to distribute your film, no matter where, in festivals or in cinemas or in platforms like Netflix, Then you can start going there and having meetings with these experts that are going to, or partners that are going to help you, and then going to the way that you want. Maybe you want to put your film in a museum. That is also possible, but the gang, you are going to find them in markets and festivals normally. Then you can make that a strategy that way. But if you really want, okay, I have an impact documentary film, there are some festivals that are right for you. And if you have a very experimental creative documentary, they are the right festivals for you. That makes sense. Then you are going to find also programmers on those festivals that they are going to pick, boom, to put in the next one. That is how you can use us.
Another question?
Susana, you mentioned that do not overpitch your project in forums and markets. So what do you mean? 2-3 times only pitching your project, or what is overpitching?
Me tengo que mojar. I have to really say a number. There is no magical receipt. No. I mean, there are also residences and labs, and that is not so open. But that there are some names that we know because we know that they are very good, and they are maybe more close. That maybe it's not a public pitch. Okay, I would say that these public pitches, maybe to reduce, maybe to make one in development and maybe another one in work in progress, and maybe a rough cut if you are on that, you're lucky on that. Or if you make a rough cut in private, that is also possible to do it. But yeah, I would say maybe like a 4 is the max for me as a market.
Amy, do you want to add to that?
I think you've got good insight in terms of pitching at forums specifically. I think from sales as well, it's probably similar. If it's been to more than about 4 and over multiple years, then it's something that hasn't been picked up by a few people, and so you might think twice.
Above all, in pitching in the same kind of countries or in the same kind of markets, because imagine that we are in Germany, but there is a lot of German or German-speaking experts coming, then the ones that you meet in one, they are probably going to meet in the next, then the festival is not going to be that useful, and also saying why they are pitching again, why they didn't get anything in that previous one, who with the same people. So it's also maybe, that to take in account.
Yeah, and the level of development over those festivals and pitching, and have they achieved what they wanted to at the first pitch, and if they haven't, and the film financing is still not looking like a bigger picture, and so.
That is also why sometimes we say, and we need to think about the kind of the kind of market. To have markets that they are for co-production, there are markets that they are more for development, there are markets that they don't have rough cut. So that also your project is in the perfect moment for the markets. Sometimes we say that it's not ready, it's too early, or they are too late, we are a development market. Then it's also to know, and know your project. The first, don't send your project to something that makes no sense, because you are going to lose time. You are going to make us lose time. You are not going to look professional because you didn't read about what we are. You are going maybe to lose money because there are fees sometimes. Then just know your project and make a bit of research. No?
But every opportunity is different, and I've just come back from a development sort of industry event at AFO in the Czech Republic for science documentaries. And of course, in a few years, I'm not going to be thinking, oh, these are old, because everybody was at concept or development. So really utilize those opportunities and look out for each stage that your project's at.
There's a question in the back.
Hello, thank you for all your insights. It's very valuable. I would though like to ask, because I'm also familiar with this well and I know how it works, but I'm just thinking, how often does it happen that you really pick films which haven't had any market presence at all? I mean, there must also be some rawness, something attractive to these films. It's also a bit like a privileged point of view that we are having now. I think believing that, for instance, I'm working with filmmakers from Turkey, from Kurdistan, like Iraqi Kurdistan. They cannot even get a visa to get to these markets, and this is the reality for many filmmakers around the world. So, I mean, just even getting to that market is a big thing. I mean, just even getting I have filmmaker colleagues who couldn't even attend the screenings because they couldn't get visa, for instance, and they were screened at good festivals. So already getting there is sometimes an impossible step for the majority of filmmakers if we look at the global perspective. So do you have this in mind also when you do select projects? I know you receive hundreds and too many or increasingly many, but if you could elaborate a bit on that, that would be very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Of course, it's very difficult to travel and costly and all the barriers, and I think that wouldn't put anybody off taking a look, and there are definitely benefits, and it feels more like a discovery at points. I think as sales as well, we are always looking at the A festival selections and taking stuff from once the selection's been announced at Sundance, Cannes, Berlin. For example, we picked up No Other Land in Berlin the other year during the festival, and it hadn't been shared to us before, and we hadn't seen it at any markets. It depends, and of course we're open to picking things up in different ways. No Other Land, yeah.
Which became also a Norwegian co-production.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. No, but one thing is totally true, that if you think big festivals, it's in the North Hemisphere, and that feels weird. And I sometimes think we need to go to the festivals in the Global South, because it's also, I mean, we are in rich countries, like all the big festivals, that the stamp is very nice. They are all in the North and above all in Europe. And then it feels a bit like only those who, and they are expensive, I mean, like the accreditation and to go and to live and to spend 1 week.
Yeah, monthly salary basically for people.
Yeah, makes no sense. Above all, sometimes I feel like it's like a private US schools that only people with money can go and learn and make business. And maybe we should travel that markets we travel around the world, and then we can leave the money in other places, not just in the North.
Yeah, I would encourage you to do that. I mean, there's also example this film being screened here at this festival, the Mumbai Princess. I forgot the exact name. I mean, I read an article about this film, and the headline was, this film was only needed a Swiss co-producer in order to happen or to succeed. And that's, quite thought-provoking as well, like an African film.
Yeah, but also when we choose projects in the markets, we check what is this project and who is behind this project, who is the director, who is the filmmaking, from where the money comes from, and taking a lot of in account, who is telling, the diversity, of course.
Just one follow-up question, because you mentioned No Other Land, and that it actually worked the other way as you were recommended. You did not get involved very early, where you can make a plan. How does it work when you get involved so late?
I would say it's probably about a third to half of our slate that we would do. It's just you can't really predict what the selection is going to be every year, so it's not preferred to count on that. But I mean, we just start strategizing as soon as we can, and having that strong initial world premiere is great. It's a great stamp. And what we would just advise, just generally, if that is the case, to not have gone super broadly with your festival submissions from the festival side, and also your conversations with potential buyers, because there will be lots of people coming up to you during the festival, and it can just get complicated and tricky. There's a lot of strategy involved, and sales agents have all the relationships that you need, so not doing deals, even though you've got interest, being careful with what you say to people, so as having a clear as slate as possible for the sales agent to work on, even if, you've had your world premiere set.
Thank you for this special insight. Unless there's one more question in the back, sorry.
Yeah, the question was previous, before this other. I really appreciate that you brought this subject up, because it's, I know from the two worlds, living in Europe and coming from Africa. And I appreciate what also you say about going to the markets. For example, like if I would go to Durban, and from there you can get the projects that are not able to come to the north. You mentioned about you look at when you get a project, you look who's behind it. If it's that you look at the director, you look at the backup. Sometimes there's no backup yet. And if you look at this director and it's the first time, what else do you look? How much risk do you take when you look at this project for a first timer, for example? I would like to know your thoughts about that.
How much risk I take?
You said you look behind, who's behind the project. Sometimes, like you say, they're unknown, like they just started. What else do you look at?
I check the story. That's the first. I don't follow the big names. I mean, if it's a filmmaker that I already know, that's for sure. That if I like it, they films that they made before, of course, that I'm going to put an interest, not because I already know the career. But if it's a new filmmaker, unknown, for me, if the story is good and makes sense, it's going to be doable, and it's and I have a voice and a story to tell, better for me. I'm discovering a new talent, then everybody wins, I guess, no?
But I have also another comment on that, like the curriculum, you know, because maybe it's a new filmmaker, but maybe it's coming from the art, or maybe it's coming, I don't know, like not studies. What about the curriculum of this person who is applying? I mean, it must be a good story for sure, but what about if they don't have no curriculum at all? So there's any chance, or it just has to be a very good story, if not,
Yeah, then I will say that person don't work alone. I mean, you need to be, you can try, but I mean, at least you need to know a little bit how to produce. I mean, if you want to be like a one solo person doing one film and not having any idea, I would say that try to find people to work with you, that they are a bit more experienced, that they are going to mentor you, and that, because it's complicated to know to do everything, no? Then it can be a new producer making a film, can be a new filmmaker with a more expert team. I mean, for us, it's important that the film, we see that it can be done with our help, or with the help of the people that we are bringing to the market or to the festival. But if it's people coming from fine arts, like us, or from other background, like a dancer, I don't know. They have an idea. They know how to put it in images and sounds. Maybe it's a VR experience, a doc VR experience. For me, it's fine. I can help these people to know, okay, maybe you don't have a film, but you could have a great VR installation doc. Then, and it's another format that also can travel and reach people, no? I don't know if I answered.
And yeah, I think that we discussed yesterday, there's so much space for first-time filmmakers, and it's so celebrated, and my favourite films that I've worked on have been first-time filmmakers, and the journey is it's such a privilege to be a part of, and especially on the festival circuit, there's so many competitions for first-time filmmakers and new talent and emerging talent. So yeah, it's something that we absolutely look for, and it's the story, like Susanna said. And of course, there's an element of if we've worked with somebody in the past that we're definitely going to take a look at their project, but we would never go with somebody just because of the name. Yeah.
And to answer to the first person that asked, maybe to make clear what I talk about who is the team behind, is that for some stories, and I think that for all the stories, for example, I was in Canada before, and if it's a story that talks about First Nations, I want to have someone from First Nations in the team that knows what we are doing, to not give the regard of somebody who doesn't know. That is what I'm talking about, who is the team behind the story.
Yeah, authorship is so important and vital, and those are the first conversations that happen at festivals and Q&As, and yeah, that's something that is looked into in detail by everybody.
Thank you both for deep and valuable insights, I'm sure, for everyone here. The very good news is that you are here a little bit, so for everybody who is now thinking festival strategy and which one and where do I start, I'm sure you're here for some conversations over a coffee. And I'm very much looking forward to the next events and wish you another wonderful festival day at Documentale.
Thank you.
Thank you.